Good afternoon. Welcome. My name is Maria Covell, and I'm honored to be facilitating today's tribute for Dick Doherty. I've had the pleasure of knowing the Dohertys for almost 40 years from week 7 at Sandy Island. Before we officially begin, we have a few housekeeping details. Please note the following. The audio for all guests on video has been muted. If you are calling in, please remain muted. For those on video, there are two view options, speaker and gallery. You can toggle between the two views using the button on the top right hand of your Zoom screen. When you are on speaker view, the presenter will fill the majority of your screen. In gallery view, you will see multiple thumbnails of guests. Please remain in speaker view until we direct you to switch to gallery later in the program. Please note that today's event is being recorded. We would like to share one last instruction for those that are viewing on a computer. Please set your screen to side-by-side mode by moving your mouse towards the top of the screen right now until you see view options at the top center of your screen. And this might not work on an iPad or a tablet. Click on View Options and a drop-down menu will appear. From there, make sure that side-by-side mode is checked. And now we're ready to begin. Welcome to this afternoon's tribute to honored Richard Doherty, Dick, beloved friend, father, grandfather, and great-grandfather. We come together today on what would have been Dick's 83rd birthday to celebrate his life. On behalf of Karen, Carity, Siobhan, and the entire Doherty family, thank you for joining us today. We will begin by hearing from Paul Doherty, Dick's brother, followed by words from Karen, Carrie, and Siobhan, which will be followed by photos and tributes from Dick's loving grandchildren and friends. After the program, we will invite anyone who wishes to say a few words. In addition, the chat function is available throughout the afternoon for anyone who would like to share thoughts as we go. You can click on the chat bubble at the bottom of your screen to participate in chat. And these chat memories will be part of this tribute for the family to enjoy forever. We will now begin.
Oh, Danny boy, the pipes are calling from glen to glen. And
Dick was my big brother, and I was always his little brother, no matter our size. We had our differences growing up, as all siblings do, but he was always there for me when I needed him. After joining the military, we did not see each other as much. I was stationed overseas, but we always managed to keep in touch, filling each other in on what was happening in our lives. I finally got stationed on Cape Cod and was close enough to see family again. We enjoyed many a checker game on the beach there. Many changes took place in our lives, but a constant for Dick was his tennis game. I would go to visit my mother and drive her by the club to watch Dick play. He was a good player in spite of his lousy knees and bad ankles. I often wondered why he kept it up, but I knew he loved the game, the competition, and his playing partners. As the years flew by, Dick and I spoke every week with a "how goes the conversation?" I always look forward to those talks. When he told me about his headaches, I could tell he was worried, and that made me nervous with the COVID virus going around. I will be forever grateful that I was able to see him a couple of days before he passed away. Grateful for that time that we spoke openly about how we loved each other. I truly admired who he was and what he had achieved in life. A life cut too soon for all of us that loved him. I will miss him forever. Love, Paul.
Oh, Danny boy, oh, Danny boy, soul. And if you come when all the flowers are dying, if I am dead, as dead I will maybe, you come and find the place where I am lying. You'll kneel and say, Ave, there for me. And I shall hear those soft you tread above me, and o'er my grave will warmer, sweeter be than you.
Written by Karen Patterson, read by Robert Patterson. I miss my dad. A lifetime of special memories. Dad, thank you for making sure that I knew I was loved every day of my life. Thank you for being such a wonderful father, grandfather, and great-grandfather. I loved our movie nights, 2 movies with a frozen vanilla yogurt break in between. Thank you for the amazing Sandy Island vacations we all took together every summer, sharing a cabin, playing cards, trying to keep track of all the boys. We had so much fun and treasured every moment. Magical memories that my boys and I will always cherish. Always family first. As it was in the beginning, it shall be in the end. That was your last wish. You said your happiest time was when we were a young family all together. And at the end, we were all together again, our family. I love you, Dad, and I will miss you more than I can say.
Hi, this is Carrie, and thanks for attending my dad's memorial. And as all of you who knew my dad, he loved to paint, and this is one of his paintings. He has a bigger version of his condo, and I loved it. And I asked him to paint me one, get me a copy, and he did, and it's in my bedroom. And for the purposes of this video, I'm going to call it the dove painting. He refers to it as the pigeon painting. And that's some of the things I'm gonna miss about my dad, are the funny things that he used to say, and his whistling. I loved to hear his whistling. No one whistles a sad tune. I loved the adventure rides we went on, and going to Friendlies, and how he loved ice cream, and the crazy stories he'd tell. Some were obviously fiction, and some were true, but sounded a lot more like fiction too. Those are some things that I'm definitely gonna miss, and I wanna be thankful for the things that he did give us. And one of the biggest things he gave us was the gift of Sandy Island. I don't know what this, both my parents together found that, but it's been a life-changing thing in our lives, and in so many ways, and actually gave him a whole slew of grandkids and a great-grandkid. It's been a great experience, and I'm so glad that I was able to pass it on to my kids. I feel like I've been checking in with my dad on a weekly basis since I left for college, so that's one thing that's a little different. I was always so impressed by how he made me feel that he was proud of me and proud of my kids, his grandkids. He loved them so much and was so excited about where they all are right now in their lives. And one thing that was apparent when my dad was alive, and even since he's passed, that everyone used to come up to me and say, what a great guy he is, what a good guy your dad is. And I mean, sometimes I say that to my friends' kids too, who I can't stand. I'm like, oh, your kids sound nice, but it definitely was something true, and even more apparent since he's passed. My sisters and I have been inundated with, cards and pictures and paintings and poems. Even this virtual memorial is a gift from longtime family friends. And we're also going to have a physical memorial later on in September that was also a gift. So he definitely was someone that was a great man and that many people loved, and he'll be dearly missed. I love you, Dad.
Hi, this is Siobhan. There were many things about my dad I'd never noticed when I was young. As I grew up and met people, I realized my dad never spoke negatively about anyone. He never promoted hate. One thing my dad was negative about, though, was spending money. I remember any time I asked him for something that would involve money, he would always automatically say no. Then it would be on me to form a solid case why whatever I wanted was really necessary. He never minded spending money on the arts, though. He took me to ballets, musicals, opera, and concerts. I have many memories of playing with my toys and listening to classical music. It is part of the soundtrack of my childhood. So is Neil Diamond and ABBA, but I think that was more of my mother's influence. When I think back now and can view these things with more perspective, I am so thankful he tried to raise me to reject hate, to think about what I really need versus what I want, and to appreciate the arts. My life has more meaning and depth because of how he raised me, and I am thankful.
For our dad. Dear God, I gratefully thank you for giving us our dad, because you gave the best you had. Watch over him and bless him, Lord, and keep him in your care, and may he feel our love for him, this our humble, heartfelt prayer.
Those we love don't go away. They walk beside us every day. Unseen, unheard, but always near. Still loved, still missed, and very dear.
I remember of Grandpa is when we went to Sandy Island and he would let me ride in his cart and give me lollipops. Another thing I remember was when, before I was in school, he would always bring me to Bradford Tavern and give me push pops.
My favorite memory of Grandpa, one of them was when we visited Boston and we took a boat to George's Island and we walked around the castle. I also liked how whenever we visited his condo, we'd get to see Buddy and we'd try to look at all the paintings throughout his house and we'd watch the swans.
Some of my favorite memories of Grandpa are when he went to our cello and piano recitals, and I love that we shared a passion for classical music together. Some other things I remember was when we were younger, my mom, Millie, and sometimes Hazel, and Grandpa and I would all go to the zoo together, the Stoneham Zoo, and Grandpa would like to share all of his animal facts and would talk a lot about the American lions. And I also remember Grandpa was pretty adventurous. He let us take him out in a kayak at Sandy Island. We had a lot of fun paddling around the main dock.
When I was little, I nicknamed Grampy the Lollipop Man once when I was talking to my mom in the car because every time we saw him, he'd have Tootsie Pops for us. And once we got older, we stopped receiving them, but Hazel and Jadine appeared to be favorites because they still got them. And Jadine was older than us, by the way. But us other kids weren't forgotten because every time we stopped by his house, he'd offer us ice cream or sundae or Klondike bars. And if you said no, he'd keep insisting. And it was really cute of him. And at every birthday and Christmas, his staple present was a painting and a roll of quarters taped to the back. He always spelt my name H-A-L-Y, forgetting the E, but I wished my name was spelled that way because I always thought it seemed so much cooler. And for years, at every Christmas, he'd give me canvases and paints and sometimes brushes. And I wonder what message he was trying to send. Maybe paint. And eventually I did catch on and I started using them. But every time I saw Grampy, he'd give me a strong hug and a kiss on the cheek and call me his beautiful granddaughter. And recently, my mom showed me this baby pic of him. And when I first saw it, I thought it was a baby pic of me. And I was like, and we were thinking, maybe that's why he's always calling you beautiful, because you look just like him. But my Grampy was the embodiment of what it means to be a good man. And I will miss him and his kind, honest, beautiful soul. I love you, Grampy.
Until we meet again, we think about you always, we talk about you still. You've never been forgotten, and you never will. We hold you close within our hearts, and there you will remain, to walk and guide us through our lives until we meet again.
Wonderful. And now we will hear from two of Dick's beloved lifelong friends. First, Tim O'Leary will say a few words, followed by Matt Connolly.
Yeah, my name is Timothy James O'Leary, and I'm 82 years old, and I've known Richard Doherty for 67 years as a good friend from the hood. I was 15 years old and completed 8 years of parochial grammar school at St. William's and the Catholic side, and I was entering as a freshman to an inner city public school at Boston Technical High School in 1951. I was afraid. My neighbor, Todd Swenson, rest in peace, across the street, was a sophomore at Boston Technical High School. I went with Todd the first day of September 1951 and was introduced to Richard E. Doherty, who was a sophomore at the local MBTA Savin Hill Station. We three would take the T to high school downtown. We became friends forever, and that was the beginning of a long and meaningful relationship. Excuse me. Richard E. went on to Wentworth Technical Institute for Architectural Design, and I went in the Army for 6 months after duty. Savin Hill by the sea, next to Malibu Beach, was the perfect neighborhood to grow up in. And Richard E., he always told me that I lived on the wrong side of the tracks. A bridge over the Southeast Expressway today, and I was not a match for the high ground people on the Savin Hill side of the bridge. We both got married after attending each other's wedding. We had a beautiful family with children. I lived in Needham, Mass, and Maddie Conley, who's following me, and Richard already lived in Arlington and eventually moved to Winchester, Mass. We kept in touch with one another, and that was a very good, special relationship, really. We rented in Truro, Massachusetts 1 year on the Cape, on the Bayside, and we played cards at night with each other as couples. And the two buildings were side by side. A favorite game of cards was hearts, and they were very competitive games. We would then stop and check on our children, that they were sleeping well, back again to the cards. And Richard, he always wanted to win. And we found out each time when he laid his cards down with the winning hand, calling out, coup for Ray, another win. Richard E. brought with him a little small sailboat named Her Majesty's Ship Doherty. And he took the sailboat out and ended up lost in Provincetown. I remember I had to go back and pick him up in my old post office truck, painted red. Again, we went for another summer's vacation in Matunic the following year at Rhode Island, and which was really different for us. So eventually, as mentioned, he decided these family vacations were a real good thing after 2 years with us. And he eventually found a YMCA camp called Sandy Island on Lake Winnipesaukee, New Hampshire. For many years, maybe decades. And while visiting Richard E., I always asked for the summer camp yearbook to look at all the changes and smiling faces that was prepared, that I believe by Siobhan each year. And Siobhan, thank you for doing this. I really keep in touch with everyone each year when I went to his apartment, and so we have great memories of Richard E. I once asked Richard E. what the initial E stood for, and he said nothing. I said, what name would you give yourself for the E? He said, Eric the Conqueror. I liked his answer, and he liked the history as well. Finalizing now, and at the beginning of this memory lane, I mentioned I knew Richard E. for 67 great years. One of the fondest memories will be the five guys from the hood, Savin Hill neighborhood. We rented a charter boat off of Ogunquit, and there was a picture shown in here, Ogunquit, Maine, called Ugly Annie. We went out, and the picture is somewhere, and you saw it, Tim O'Leary, Richard Doherty, making fun of me, John Cahalan, and Maddie Conley, and Todd Swenson, rest in peace. This is who wrote the nice article about Richard E. to follow me today. Here are the five of us always wanted to keep in touch with one another forever. And then over the years, as we recalled on our trip, was having a lot of beers. And then someone offered me a meatball sandwich and a greasy chicken piece. And the next thing you know, I was seasick. And the captain of the boat would not return the boat around and go back to shore. Oh, well. The five of us got a really lot of fond memories of Richard E. And peace, love, and joy. Richard E., God bless your soul. We all truly love you. Thank you for sending these annual Christmas cards every year of your life to me over the many years. I love you. Goodbye. God bless. Thank you.
Thank you all. That was a lovely presentation, and thank you, Tim. That was a great job. I go back with Dick longer than, well, about as long as Timmy. I know for a fact that I knew him in 1958. I have a paper here that shows that I was a member of a group at St. William's Church, and we had a list of officers, and I just found this recently, and at the bottom of the list, there's a guy who's on it, and his name is Richard Doherty. And guess what position he had? He was the social chairman. So you'd have to figure, way back then, we knew what he was going to be. He was going to be a very sociable guy, and that's what he was all my life anyway. As I say, he was a friend. And what I'd like to do is to quote something. I know people hate quotes, but this is a quote I like. And I think it relates to Dick. And it's written by Michael Oakeshott. He's a British philosopher. And he says, friends are not concerned with what can be made of one another, but only with the enjoyment of one another. And the condition of enjoyment is a ready acceptance of what is in the absence of any desire to change or improve. And that exactly was my relationship with Dick. He didn't want to change me. I didn't want to change him. I think I knew him best when we were teenagers. That's when we would, probably into our early 20s. That's when we would sit around, we'd drink beer, and we'd talk. We talked philosophy, religion, whatever, things like that. Dick was well-read. He was very smart. He knew lots about history, Greek history, Latin history. And he was teaching me all along over the beers, lots of things I did not understand. And through the years that happened. But one thing about Dick that I always liked was that he was well liked by everyone. He was, when he passed, and I told people he passed, everyone said, he's a nice guy. Dick had no prejudices. He had no enemies. He had many friends. He had many different types of friends. The group Timmy mentioned, those were 4 or 5 of us. Maybe it went to 7 at some times. But he had friends who he played tennis with growing up. He had the friends in the neighborhood who were the brainy kids. He had the friends with kids who were pushing the envelope. And I didn't know many of his friends. I just knew our group. But every once in a while in conversations, he had mentioned these other people. And I was surprised at how many people he knew. I knew Dick had 3 lovely daughters. but I didn't know much more about them. And I don't think he knew much more about my family, because when we got together, we didn't talk about our family, strangely. We talked about history and politics and things like that. But it was always over a beer, and it was always with a laugh. Dick liked sports, I know, but he never talked much about them. He didn't talk too much about many things except a limited area, at least with me. I knew he was an engineer, and I knew he was a great artist, but he didn't talk too much about him. Dick was, I think, a real Irish guy. He had an Irish name. He had Irish good looks. He had an Irish smile. He had the Irish enjoyment of a beer and talk, but there was also another Irish side to him. He had the Irish attitude towards food from the youngest age. When I first met him, 15 or 16 at Howard Johnson's in Morrissey Boulevard, Dick would only eat meat and potatoes. The last few times I saw him, we'd be in an Italian restaurant, and he'd sit there and he'd move the food from side to side, and we'd talk and have a couple of beers, and all he would do was move the food from side to side. It was a constant in Dick's life. Dick also had the Irish stubbornness. One thing you all know, he refused to learn the internet. I'd tell Dick, get in the internet, get an email, get a cell phone, do something like that. He refused. No one was going to tell him what to do. He also had the stubbornness where he made up his mind to do something, he would do it. Or if he made up his mind not to do it, no matter how often you asked him, he wouldn't do it. He was very strict with that. One thing he had a feeling in, as far as I was concerned, was his ability to drive a car. I recall the time I went with Todd Swenson and Dick down to Coney Island. We'd run through red lights, we'd stop at green lights. He was driving. He wasn't paying attention. He was in the conversation. We'd stop at a red light, the light had turned green, and we'd be sitting there talking. Dick wouldn't move forward. He was totally involved in the conversation. I really did not enjoy driving with them. Another thing Timmy mentioned was Dick was extremely competitive. He always wanted to beat me. We'd race. We used to like to race each other. And if I won, he'd want to race again. If he won, that was it. He was the champ. A couple of weeks later, if I won, he'd want to race again. If I won again, he'd want to race, until finally I'd say to myself, the only way I'm getting home tonight is to let Dick win. So I'd let him win. But one thing about him that I treasured was that he was always loyal. He was always checking on me, always asking me what I was doing. How are things coming along? What's going on with you? Things like that. Let's get together. It was an unusual friendship. It was one that you don't have too often. And it was one, as I said earlier, it was one I wouldn't change at all. It was just a nice friendship. But when I thought of Dick over the last couple of weeks since he's passed, there's one thing I thought about him. He always had a smile. He was always smiling, at least with me. We sat, we enjoyed ourselves, and it was always a laugh about something. As you saw in the picture with the boat, what is he doing in that picture? He's holding up a noose behind Timmy's neck. At times he would tell me he'd like to strangle Timmy. I'm sure Timmy knows that. Timmy would drive him crazy at times, but that was never interfered with their friendship. They were good guys. Well, as I said, Dick was a friend. He's going to be missed. It's very hard to sum up 65 years in 5 minutes, 6 minutes. There's many stories about him. Some I could tell, others I just will have to stay with me. I don't think he'd like you to hear. I wish all of you well. I hope you can live up to what he was. I hope you all can be good friends with other people like he was. You're lucky to have such a grandfather and a father, and thank you for having me.
Thank you for those incredible stories, Tim and Matt. We will now hear from Dick's grandsons, starting with BJ Patterson.
How's it going, everybody? I just wanted to make it kind of short and sweet. There's a lot of good things about Grampy that, I could go on and on about, but there's one thing that I always remember is that he would always take me to Red Sox games. and we saw a lot of great like ball players and games together. But there was one game that I saw that I will never forget. Is when growing up my age, everybody's favorite ball player was like Ken Griffey Jr. and I got to see him play at Fenway, and it was like the best game of my life. I'll never forget that. So he was a great man, and he did a lot of great things for people. And I'm sorry that I'm like choking up, but thank you for all the memories, and I love you, and you'll be sadly missed. Thank you, everybody.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Robert. So I wanted to pay tribute to my grandfather. A couple weeks before I was born, my father's father, my other grandfather, passed away. So I only ever had one grandfather growing up. But it was funny because you hear the stories from Madeline and Haley and everyone else, and it's always about the lollipops. Well, that's what we called him growing up, Grampy with the lollipops. He was the only grandfather, but, you know, he still had a title, Grampy with the lollipops. And then it was funny, Matt, you know, brought up his dieting, you know, meat and potatoes guy. Me, I remember Grampy like this: Smart Food, Reese's, and a Coca-Cola.
Yes.
He didn't have the best diet, you know. Living to 83 was a blessing in itself, I would say. And he is going to be greatly missed. Another thing Matt brought up was his driving. I remember when I graduated from high school, we went out to eat, and then he's like, "Oh, Bob, let me drive you back to the house." I didn't know if I was going to go to college or not. I didn't know if I was going to make it alive home that day. It was the scariest experience of my life. But, you know, just as like Siobhan was saying, love of art, being a good person, you know, these are all sort of things that I learned from my grandfather. You know, some things that some people don't consider manly, but he made it so manly. You know, love of classical music and the theater, art, you know, stuff like that was just, I mean, when he did it and he showed it to me, it was like, you know, I don't know, it just greatly influenced me, myself. And I'm very happy and blessed that he got to meet his grandson before he passed. Great-grandson, sorry, right here. Which, if you ask me, they're pretty similar too. Blue eyes, blonde hair. I mean, especially when they're kids anyways. But thank you for your time. And I'm really going to miss my grandfather. Thank you.
Sweet. Hello, everybody. Can you hear me? Do I have volume? Sweet. Yes, I see a thumbs up. Hi, I'm Lance. Hope everybody's doing well in COVID. As you can see, I inherited Dick's good looks. One of the few things I inherited from him was his good looks, thank God. Unlike my other brothers. I also inherited kidney stones from him. And the other, like, I don't know why, but I'm the only person that I know. Oh, besides Siobhan, I think she gets kidney stones. I got kidney stones as well, which is great. I also got an affinity for cards, just as much as him. You know, we play a lot of cards growing up. You know, and I always been a big fan of cards ever since playing him. He always cheated, I feel like, because I'd never beat him, but I don't know. I could be wrong. He could just be a really good card player. I don't know, but he always had that competitive drive to never want to lose. Always wanted to win, and I definitely inherited that from him. So that was great. And I mean, to me, it just blows my mind that just one person can have such a ripple effect in the world of, you know, creating 3 other people that created so many other people that affected so many people's lives. And that's why we're all here in this moment right now, is because of just that one person making all these right decisions in life and bringing us and having an amazing life and bringing us all here. And I don't know, he's missed. I love him. And again, thank God I got his good looks. Thank you so much.
Thank you all. I'd like to ask everyone to now choose gallery view. in order to see everyone who is gathered today to honor Dick. As a reminder, go to the top corner of your Zoom window and hit gallery. You will either see the words gallery view or you'll see a square icon with 9 dots. Once you're on gallery view, if you're using an iPad or an iPhone, you'll just have to swipe with your finger to see everybody. And if you're on a computer, you'll see a page of tiles and you can move from page to page. At this point, you should be able to see multiple tiles of guests on the screen, and we can all just take a moment to look around.
I don't see that.
We can wave to each other.
There's some people.
We will now open the event for anyone who would like to say a few words or share memory of Dick. And in order to indicate that you would like to share, please use the raise hand feature, and you can go to the bottom of your screen, click participants, and click the raise hand icon on the bottom left of the participants panel. So it's just at the bottom of your screen, the word participants, and just click the raise hand. And then we will, you will receive an alert to unmute yourself when it's your turn to speak. Also, if you prefer to just leave a memory in the chat box, you can do that, and the chat will be preserved for the Doherty family to enjoy. If you prefer that, that's great also.
Oh, hi. Hi, everyone. I'm Jade. Okay, I hope I can get through this because this was so beautiful. And Grampy was the best. Anyways, so hi, my name's Jade. I met Grampy my first Sandy Island over 10 years ago. We instantly clicked because of tennis, and we both happened to love gin rummy. And I think he liked it because I beat the brothers at every sport. And I was young, so I don't know, he kind of took me in as a granddaughter, I guess. I know, Grampy was the coolest. He had loved his dry sense of humor. And on the court, we would play doubles together, and he'd always make me laugh, and we wouldn't take it that seriously, but we'd win, and it was just fun. So in the last decade, I lost both my grandfathers, and I remember telling Grampy that you're my only one left, Grampy, and I remember him taking it really seriously. So now I have no grandpas left, but they're all in heaven, and we'll meet them again, and they'll be waiting for us in the tennis court. Anyways, thanks for always accepting me, Grampy, and I'm glad you got to meet Rupert. All right, love you. Rest in peace.
Thank you, Jadine. And now we're going to hear from Chuck Bean.
I'm one of Dick's tennis partners. It's one of the old group, the old farts at the tennis court. And I just like to remember how wonderful it was to always have someone willing to accept my lousy skills. I could never keep up with him, even when he was hobbling around. And I just loved every morning looking for him in the morning, having early breakfast, going to the courts, and the wonderful spirit of acceptance. And I really loved him. And through him, his whole family. So I just want to say, I'm going to finish my Manhattan tonight and cheer for him. God bless.
Now we'll hear from Robert Patterson, and thank you, Chuck, for those words. Robert, we'll now hear from you.
Sorry, yeah, I thought of 2 more stories I wanted to bring up. One was the time at Sandy Island not too long ago, just sort of, you know, to give a little character to my grandfather, but he had a toothache, and we went to see the nurse. I went with him, and the nurse was talking about, you know, kicking him off island to go to see a dentist or go to the emergency room or whatever. And he's like, no, we're not doing that. Bob, you're pulling this tooth. And pulled that tooth right out of his head. And, you know, that was sort of one of the things that was the type of person he was, you know, like on Sandy Island with his family, he's not leaving. Just rip that tooth out. Another story was we were driving home from Sandy Island one time, and we went to visit my grandmother, my Nana, Barbara, and we visited her, and, you know, and then I'm sorry, on the way to her house, my grandfather was commenting on the car because we just got a new car, me and Jade. And I was like, oh yeah, you know, it's technically Jade's car. I help her with the payments, but it's in her name, whatever, you know. So we're leaving my Nana's house, and we're all going into the car. And he's like, all right, everybody get into Jadine's car. You know, we got to go home in Jadine's car just to, you know, nail it in there. He was very dry humor, but just hilarious man. And I really am going to miss him a lot. Thank you.
Thank you again, Robert. If anybody else would like to say a few words, please feel free to take yourself off mute.
Okay, I'm Jane Nugent, and I'm a good friend of Dick for maybe like the last 20 years or so. I met Dick when we had a group of people that used to go to Newport, Rhode Island every summer during the month of August. And because Dick was working at Beth Israel, he would come down on weekends. And I have more photos, more great memories of the walks, the talks, all the different places we went. We did kayaking. I mean, he played tennis every day right down the street. We always went to the beach in the late afternoon. I mean, there's just so many, and he was always exploring and looking at different things and coming back and saying, well, I just found this different place, you know, this cove or this beach that nobody goes to. And we all have to go, you know, and so we would all always follow Dick, because Dick seemed to know what the best thing to do was in the whole area. And so that went on for like 10 years or so, and there were just too many memories to even talk to you about right now. But I have to say, I think Dick really liked Newport, and I think it was a big part of his life, as it was a big part of my life when I was going down there. And then I think what really got Dick and I to be very, very close was the fact that after my mother passed away in 2003, Dick bought my mother's condo in Winchester. So the condo that Grampy lived in was my mother's old place. And Dick always would call me and say, do you want to come over? Do you want to see what I've done with your mother's place? Do you want to see the paintings? And so I would always make my annual or my semi-annual trip over there, or even like once every couple of months and before I moved to Florida. And he would show me all his gorgeous paintings. And I have to tell you, you guys mentioned that he was a great artist. I mean, he was, in my opinion, absolutely incredible. I mean, the watercolors, the drawings that he did, I mean, all the oil paintings or the acrylics or whatever they were. I walked around my house this afternoon before this, and I counted on the walls 8 paintings that he had given me over the years. And the one that I have here that I have to show you, which I know I coerced from him because I know he didn't want to give it away, but I thought it was the most beautiful one he had, and he gave it to me, and it will go wherever I go for the rest of my life. So I don't know if you all can see this, but this is one by Klimt that Dick did called The Kiss. And I truly believe that this is a masterpiece. And I'm not just saying that to be nice. I mean, I look at all the detail on this. I just can't believe that Dick did this. He was supremely talented, supremely. And I used to love to go over there and see all the different things that he had done and the different kinds of techniques that he was using. But I also have a very funny story about paintings. Okay, so Dick used to come over to my house, you know, every once in a while. I'd make dinner for him or something, and he'd go around and check out the different things that I had that weren't his. And one day he noticed this painting that I had, or it was a print. It was in my kitchen, and I think that this is the origination of the pigeon painting that Kara was talking about, because there was this painting, or it was actually a print that I had gotten in a Japanese art gallery on a trip that I had made to Japan. And unbeknownst to Dick, I had spent a lot of money on it. But I don't think Dick knew that. He just saw this and he thought it was really pretty. I think he thought I probably had bought it like in the airport or something. And so he kind of I think he took a photo of it, or he somehow, you know, made a visual image of it. Maybe it was through his phone or something like that. So, you know, the months go by or whatever, and November 26th comes around and it's my birthday. And he says to me, "Oh, I want to come over because I have a present for you." And I went, "Oh, God, that's great. Okay." So he comes over, and what does he have for me all wrapped up? But a carbon copy of my Japanese art print, the exact same painting. And it looked, I mean, it was even better than the original. And I think that that's why Dick did it, because he probably thought he could do a better job. But I also think he thought I had this like cheap old thing, and he could make something that was just like a masterpiece for me. So I thanked him for it, and I thought it was just the cutest thing in the whole world. I didn't get to see Dick a lot over the last couple of years of his life because I was living in Florida, and I didn't know that he was sick before he passed away. It was on my list of things to do, which was to call him when I got home. And I will forever regret that I never got to say goodbye to him or tell him that I loved him. So I want to say goodbye to you now, Dick, and I know you're in a better place, and rest in peace, you wonderful man. Thank you, everybody.
Hi, I'm Connie Kelly. I'm Christine's sister, Dick's first wife. And I just have a funny story. And after listening to Lance and some of his card playing stories, it really rings true. I can't remember if they were engaged or married, but growing up every Sunday at our home on Ludlow Street, we always used to play games, be it game boards or cards or whatever. So this particular day, they were up visiting, and my father, who was, he's Grampy, and he had a card game, a card trick, and he playing the joke on Dick. So the trick was for Dick to pick a card, and I don't know, it went back in the deck, whatever, and the cards were all spread out, and my father would recognize the card and tell him what the card was. So he did this several times, and my father would always guess Dick's card. And he was getting a little perturbed, you know. How are you doing that? How is it? I don't understand. He couldn't figure it out, and he kept asking him to do it over and over and over again. Well, finally, they left. The game's over. No one knew how they were doing it. So I said, "Ma, what were you doing? How could Daddy know what the trick was?" Well, somehow my father had seen the card, obviously, but my mother, she would say, she'd touch this side of her nose if it was on the right side, or that side of her nose, or if he had to go up, she'd touch her head, or go down and touch her chin. And he never figured it out. And now I understand why he was so insistent with seeing it over and over and over again. And we didn't tell him for a long, long time. And that's it. He was a great guy. And that was the competitive spirit. And he lost this one. Thank you.
We've known the Dohertys for probably 40 years now, through Sandy Island, and have gotten to become, great friends with really all the generations, including the grandkids. And every year, or many years, on the drive from Maryland to New Hampshire, we would stop in Topsfield and stay with Carrie and her family. And one year, this is probably 3 years ago, I was looking around the house, and we saw this painting here of Sandy Island that Carrie had in her house. So we get to the island, and I'm talking to Dick, and I'm like, "Oh, Dick, your paintings are unbelievable." And I said how much I enjoyed them. And lo and behold, I come to the next year, we go to Carrie's again, and it's wrapped. This is wrapped at their house for us with a note from Dick on the back. It was just so generous for him to take the time to do this for Heather and I and our family, and we have it in our house and absolutely adore it. And the memories we have of him are incredible. The happy hours with the gang and the generations of The family will miss that dearly this year. We'll miss Dick this year and every year, but we'll all be there soon again, and Dick will be there in our memory.
Oh gosh. So I'll probably cry because that's what I do with these sorts of things. But I will be forever thankful for Dick for giving me my Sandy sister, Carrie. And because of the amount of time Carrie and I spent together at Sandy Island, that means that I got to spend a lot of time with Dick. Whether it was breakfast in the morning or afternoons on Carrie's porch, or some very late nights on the beach with Dick. I definitely got some bonus time with him because of all the times that I spend with Carrie. And then Carrie and I got to be so close, like Mike said, we would visit them in Topsfield. We would always have our pre-Sandy night, so we could have a night alone before we had to share each other with the whole rest of the island. And they came down to Maryland to visit us, Carrie and the kids. So our friendship definitely allowed me to have a lot of time with Dick. And Mike and I, as Mike is a tennis player, would get me to play in the mixed doubles with him. So our very last mixed doubles tournament was actually against Dick and Jadine. And I believe she had stepped on a nail and had like a nail punctured her heel. And she still played in the tennis match against us. I'm not sure who won. And that's honest. That's being honest. She might know. But I do believe that he definitely loved her toughness and her competitiveness. But I think one of the great things is as we competed against each other, eventually then Jadine and Orion and I became triathlon partners. So now our families are tied together forever with the triathlon. We've kind of switched off who does what sport, whether it's swimming, running, or kayaking, but the Lowcrafts and the Dohertys are definitely bonded, I think, forever. And I'm very thankful for Dick for bringing all these awesome people to Sandy Island.
Thank you, Jane, Connie, Mike, and Heather. We're now going to hear from Dick's grandchildren, Charlie and Haley.
Hello, I'm Charlie and Haley.
Hi.
And one of the stories that I just wanted to bring up was I remember his grandpa was kind of on his deathbed. Me and my cousins, the Patterson boys, and the Cormiers, my sister, all came to gather just to have like one last afternoon with him. And I remember he called my name to come inside to see him. And only my mom and my cousin Bobby were inside. Robert, we're professional now. But I remember he called me in, and I was thinking he was going to say some nice just last word stuff to me. And I opened the door, and I come in, and he just goes, "I need your muscles." And I had to help him up and get him up and walk him around, because it looks like he didn't trust Bobby to help him with the child and everything now, or Robert. Right, so here's Haley.
We were just thinking I should mention how one time, this was a few years ago, like we were still in elementary school a while ago, and Grampy was babysitting us, and my mom came home and came upstairs, and we were all watching South Park. So we just wanted to say thank you, Grampy, for introducing us to one of our now favorite TV shows. So yeah.
End it off there, I guess.
Thank you, Charlie and Haley.
It's Matt and Maria's brother here. You guys can see how important Sandy Island is to all of us, just about every one of us on this this great tribute. And I can remember there was another Doherty, Ben Doherty, that passed away this year too, and he was one of the Irish guys that I remember as a kid. The two Dohertys, at the time I didn't even realize they weren't related, but they were always kind of the tennis studs when we were little kids, Ben and Dick Doherty, and he passed away as well this year. But the Sandy is just an incredible, community, as you guys can all see here. We all go there for the week. Everyone is literally kind of like a family when we're up there, no matter the age, no matter the, the situation. We're all just so kind of happy to be together on this incredible place, Sandy Island. And the vivid memory I have of Dick is just, like everybody said, he was always just in such a good mood, He would barely be walking down the path, moving real slow, if he was even walking. Most of the time he'd be in his little buggy thing. But and he was always just smiling, you know, never in a hurry. You'd buzz by and you'd say hello, and he'd just be like, "Hey, how are you?" And just, you know, moving at his own speed. So we'll certainly miss him. It's strange that we're not there this year, but this kind of feels like a little bit of a reunion in a way. And certainly it'll be great to be back there a short year from now. Thanks, guys.
I heard you all talk about my brother's driving habits, but nothing will surpass the trip I took with him to my mother and father's grave in Mattapan. He was driving his banged up Subaru. It had more dents in it than I don't know. And we're going through the city of Boston, and he's doing a Sudoku puzzle on the steering column and driving the car through the city. Now, believe it or not, he was doing the puzzle. His little pencil, I just couldn't believe him. So, Maddie, I know what you're talking about. He is a horrible driver. How he survived that long, I'll never understand. It's very tough for me. I'm going to miss him terribly. But again, I just want to thank you all for being here. And that's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Well, it was wonderful to see the picture of Dad with Dick Doherty, who he liked so very, very much. And two things I'd like to comment on. No wonder they got along so well, because Dad, as you know, is a meat and potatoes kind of guy. He's a fast food kind of guy. I try my best, and he does well for his 80 years for sure. And the other thing that they definitely had in common is no cell phone, no smartphone, no computer, all that stuff. We're starting to get into that now, but we promise we won't ask you kids for help. Anyway, the Dohertys are near and dear to our hearts. You know that Dick was a tremendous fellow because of the tremendous daughters that he raised, the special husbands and boyfriends of all those daughters, and all those wonderful grandchildren. So Dick Doherty, rest in peace, and we'll miss you always, especially when we go to Sandy Island starting next year, God willing. Thank you.
If I can put in my 2 cents, I remember very well when the Dohertys started coming to Sandy Island, what was it, 40 years ago, as Mike said, and they had gone over to Wolfboro on the boat. I think one of the kids was very interested in horses at the time. We had a lot of things interesting to talk about, but it was great getting to know the family and Chris and everyone else. So yes, we will be missing Dick, and Sandy Island won't be the same without him up there. Take care.
Wonderful tribute today. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt and Muff. Anyone else would like to say a few words?
Great.
Well, before we conclude today's gathering, please enjoy this fond farewell from North Dock at Sandy Island.
Sandy, set in a sea of blue, raising our hearts so grandly, molding us into friends true, working, playing, life is just what you make it, boys and girls, friends and good cheer await you here. Beautiful Isle of Sandy. Beautiful Isle of Sandy, set in a sea of blue, raising our hearts so grand.
everyone for coming today on behalf of the Doherty family. We are now going to invite everyone to come off of mute. If you would like to say farewell to everybody, just be sure to unmute yourself, and we will close the room in just a few minutes.
I'd like to say hello to Paul. Hey, Paul, how you doing up there in Maine? You up there?
Still there, Matt. Thank you. Doing well.
Good, good. Glad to hear it. Haven't seen you since I knew you were in Japan.
That's way back when, Matt.
Long time ago.
It was definitely a long time ago.
This is Carrie Maria. Thank you so much. What a lovely, lovely gift this was. So fun to see everybody.
What's up, Mama? Hey.
What's up, Lance?
Yo, what up?
Oh, was that handsome guy over there? Who's that handsome guy?
Yo, you see this handsome guy over here, dude?
Yeah. Woo! There he is.
Tree pie.
He does look like little grandpa.
Carrie, thank you for the opportunity, and Siobhan and Karen. This was such a special afternoon, and we were so happy to be part of it.
Oh, this was wonderful. Thank you so much, Maria.
Oh my gosh, our pleasure. Yeah, we're just about to close the room. We can all just say goodbye to each other.
Yeah. See you soon.
Thank you, guys.
It's
Thank you so much.
Sandy.
This was phenomenal.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Love you
Bye,
all.
everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. Had a chance to learn a little bit about Zoom. Have to be using it more often.
Right.
Appreciate your instructions.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you, Matt.
Oh, yeah.